I saw a question on New York Saddle Hunter Facebook forum, and it kind of inspired a thought I had that I wanted to discuss. And the question was about, what's really best. And I think the question was about, using single stick climbing or, whatever. It just made me think about other videos I've seen. For example, recently I saw a video it's put out by Dan Enfalt, and they were talking about what's better, saddle versus tree stands. And this whole idea of what's best, even Scott and I, our very first video we put out, and we kind of did it as clickbait so that people would click on the video. But when we kind of introduced DRT climbing to saddle hunting, we put, best climbing solution for saddle hunters. And that was really kind of just clickbait, because best is kind of a funny thing, and I want to talk about that. What's best? Number one, when it comes to hunting, I believe I kind of have this philosophy that I'm a mechanic by trade, and I view things very similarly in hunting as I do to being a mechanic. A good mechanic has lots of tools, and he buys good quality tools, and he tries to buy different varieties of tools that will make his job easier depending on the circumstances. So if I need to turn a 9/16 bolt or nut, I have a lot of different tools that I can turn that nut and bolt with. But depending on the circumstance, where it is, there might be just the perfect tool that'll work really well for me. So maybe in one circumstance, I need a deep socket with an extension on a ratchet. In another circumstance, I might need just an open-end wrench. In another circumstance, maybe just a crescent wrench will work. And, the circumstances will dictate what is the best tool for that job. And best can be debatable, because what's best for me might be different than what's best for you. If we're talking about tree stands versus saddles, let's look at the circumstances. I would say the reason I got into saddle hunting, for example, was I had some areas that I'm hunting. I have to hike over a mile to get in and climb 1,000 feet of elevation, and humping my climbing stand that far was a bit of a chore, and I felt if I went to saddle hunting, I could lighten up my load and make it easier. I also found one of the benefits of saddle hunting was that I could get into trees different ways that I couldn't get into trees with a tree stand. And we started utilizing rope climbing methods, and that opened up a lot of the trees that I couldn't get either a climbing stick or even a tree stand in because they were too large. So what happened is, by me adding different tools to my arsenal for hunting, I now have more variety that I can go to, and now I have more trees that I can get into. So I would suggest that we look at these things not as what's best, in the sense that I'm only going to do things one way, because if I do, I'm going to pigeonhole myself and limit myself. I think we should look at it as what's best under the circumstances for this hunt, and what are the options that I have available. Last year we were hunting on a lease upstate, and it was a leased piece of property, and there was nothing that was really that far of a walk. It was all level ground, and we didn't have to worry about people stealing or any tree stands or anything. And I ended up realizing that on that property, it just made sense in certain key locations to put in fixed position sticks where I could just leave them there, so I could go in, sneak up, climb up the sticks, tether in, and saddle hunt. And some of those trees would have been great for tree stands. We didn't bring any tree stands with us, but Scott and I were talking. We're like, you know what? with this year, if we go back there, what we're going to do is a couple of these spots, let's just set a fixed position stand, leave it there, we can go in and hunt it. There's nothing that says that because you saddle hunt, you can't hunt out of a tree stand. In fact, there's nothing that says that you can't hunt out of a tree stand in your saddle. I've done it. So, you know, what you should do is look at all of these things and say, you know, what tools do I want to have in my arsenal? And for me, I like the idea of being able to climb into trees different ways. So I have multiple sticks. I have a stick that I use for single stick climbing. I can climb DRT. I can climb SRT. And in doing all this stuff, there's virtually no tree that I can't get into. So it benefits me because I have more tools in my arsenal. And I'm not pigeonholed into just one way. You know, if I was just using my climber, I'm always looking for a tree that doesn't have limbs that I can't get around, and it's got to be a certain size and this and that. And what does that do? It limits me to those types of trees. But now I've got a climber. If I've got a tree that, you know, that's like that, and I don't have that far of a walk, and like, you know, hey, I want to sit in my climber today, I can just use my climber. Maybe that same tree, I can single stick climb and sit in a saddle if I want. I can, you know, there's a lot of different options. Personally, Scott and I, we like to preset spots that are way back with preset paracord loops, so we can just carry in a rope, pull a rope into the tree, rope climb into the tree, and saddle hunt it. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just all of these tools give me an option, and I'm going to let the circumstances of the tree, the terrain, all the circumstances of the hunt dictate what I'm going to use and what I think is best. And just because what I think is best for me doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to be the best thing for you. You know, I have, you know, myself, maybe I have certain abilities that other guys don't. Sometimes there's guys, they're bigger guys, and they have a little bit of trouble climbing certain ways, and they're more comfortable using a different method. Or, you know, maybe a guy is just not comfortable in a saddle. You know, he says no matter what he does, he always gets a little hip pinch or something, and he says, I'm more comfortable in a stand. Okay, that's okay. You know, there's no, to me, there's no such thing as an absolutely better way, best way for everybody across the board. And I just wanted to discuss that because I kind of feel like it just seems like there's competition. And our competition shouldn't be in trying to convince somebody else that the way that I'm doing it is better than the way that you're doing it. That's not it. The only thing, I look at things this way. I propose some of the ways I'm doing it, the things I like, and, you know, I'd like to share them. I'll tell people what I like and why I like it, and maybe you'll like it too. But you're just going to have to try it out for yourself and see if you do. And if you don't, that's okay. You know, do what works best for you. Do what you like. So I just wanted to share that, you know, it would be kind of nice because I see a lot of some of these forums. It just seems to be a lot of competition, and our competition should be with the deer, not so much with each other. You know, we all shoot different bows, we shoot different broadheads, shoot different arrows, different combinations of things, and everybody obviously does what they think is best or what they can afford or whatever. And what's best, you know, is in the eye of the beholder. So that's my thoughts on it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Climb safe and best of luck.